Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Let's start that again. Hello. Welcome to Game Over Vancouver. My name is Sianquita. The Canucks lose once again at home, making us one of the worst home teams in the league. How fun. We get a point, yet we are still 4-6-4 after 14 games. Lots to recap tonight. But before we get to all of that, please check out the flagship show of Game Over Network of on the Game Over Network channel, Hyperdrive Hockey. All things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries. Whatever and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all of your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts on the Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. Quick recap of the pregame stuff. As you guys may know by the title down below, Demko is back, and I'll quickly talk about his black pads later. But Demko, to me at least, looked great tonight. Um, the Canucks coaching staff also made the decision to scratch Brandstrom and to start Mark Friedman in his first game on the main roster. I believe. I'll discuss that a little bit as well later on. Excuse me. We were coming from a 4-2 loss against the Lightning, which was kind of a rough loss all around. So the Canucks were looking to come back in this game, and we came back pretty early. Well, I don't want to say came back, but we started off with a good start with a Garland to Dakota Joshua goal, which made me feel really happy for one, just because knowing what Dak went through during the off season, he was finally starting to, I will say, somewhat slowly, but came back now. Nonetheless, came back to his usual Dak self, crashed the net on a Garland cross ice pass and scored. Unfortunately, around 70 seconds later, the Blues come back right away with a cross ice, somewhat not really cross ice pass, but more of a pass into the slot of their own from Holloway to Zach Bullock. And the game was tied 1-1 10 minutes into the first. Just to talk about Demko, um, during I believe the first 3 minutes of play, I'm not too sure which Blues player it was, but there was a Blues player who somewhat clipped Demko's skates and he fell onto his back, and I think at that moment it basically set the vibe of this game that it was not going to be that fun of a watch, if that makes sense. Yes, Friedman first game this season. Thank you. Rick, talk it out. I will talk about that afterwards too. I have lots of opinions about that. Kaja. Foxa. Okay, cool. Thank you, Kaja. But yeah. Anyways, after that, a few notable things that I personally saw in the first. Not talking about the refs, because there was a lot of missed calls and a lot of calls that should not have been a call at all. Um, Most notably the what's it called? Apologies, I blanked out. Most notably the penalty in the second period, which I'll get to very, very quickly once we get to the second period. But I will say one thing that I was somewhat impressed by in the first, which did somewhat change in the second, was Carson Soucy. Carson Soucy was actually hustling somewhat in the first. He had a nice poke check that disrupted the Blues outbreak into the offensive zone early on. Um, I wish, like, I see glimpses of Carson Soucy playing like he did last year, um, and my hopes get risen to the point where I'm like, you know what? I feel like he could be a top four defenseman. But obviously later on into the game, when he essentially did not mark his man in overtime, it made me think elsewise. Elsewise? It made me essentially question my thoughts altogether. But late in the first, there was a bad error on the Canucks power play by Connor Garland. I think it was Garland's fault, essentially, because he tried to be aggressive with the puck, but because of the randomness of a bouncing puck, it misses Garland's stick, and Thomas from the Blues scores shorthanded, and it was 2-1 Blues after the first. And sure, if you look at the stat sheet, you could say that, oh, Demko's rusty. But the first two goals, I don't think were Demko's fault at all. I think it was, like, obviously, the second goal was a breakaway shorthanded. And a lot of the times with breakaways, it's like penalty shots. I like to think of it as penalty shots in soccer, where you do kind of have to anticipate where the shot's going to be going before, oh, what's it called? Unless you have godlike reaction speeds, you do have to somewhat anticipate where the opposing player will shoot the puck, which Demko was somewhat slow to react to, but at the end of the day, you can't really blame a goalie for not saving a puck going in on a breakaway. But yeah, going 2-1 into the second. In the second, I did kind of expect the Canucks to bounce back. Just like the other games from before, I expected the Canucks to bounce back and start, actually playing the game for once. But the first half of the period just seems so sloppy to me. The Canucks, for one, were playing very hard, but one thing that Ray Ferraro mentioned in commentary that I was thinking actually the entire game was that the Canucks don't like making that many direct passes, especially coming out of their defensive end. And sure, that might be an attempt just to get the puck out of the zone. That could just be touch it hockey, in that dump and chase is the way to go, and you have to play like a dog, play like a rat, and win the puck battles on the boards. But whatever it is, it's not working. Like we saw it last game where the Canucks had like 2 or 3 shots in the first period, and all they did was play in the defensive zone. As soon as they get possession, they, instead of making a direct pass to at least somewhat make a play, they do the predictable thing and they pass off the boards and pray that someone is on the other side. Unfortunately for the Canucks, the Blues were, I guess, on top of that. And the game would have honestly been, at that point, would have at least been 4-1, like 3-1, 4-1, if it wasn't for Demko finding his stride again. During that game, he was making a lot of clutch saves. I kind of forgot how big of a player, or not, how big of a player he is, or a person he is. Based off of the fact that obviously with Kevin Lankinen, a lot of his saves are very, very acrobatic, and Demko can do the same. But I think Demko, he's playing a lot smarter now, in the fact that because of the fact that he can't really extend his knees too much, he isn't overcommitting to anything that like how do I say this? He wasn't necessarily overcommitting to too many cross-ice passes in the event that he needs to make like a far blocker save, and it worked out. He was using his size to the advantage. I think, obviously, scouting reports, if you're looking at Arthur Seelovs or Kevin Lankinen, you are going to basically play the puck and pass around him in an attempt to have them overextend. But with Demko's size, it was very noticeable that this was the Demko that we missed, in the fact that we have a goalie that can bail us out of tough situations. Bro, what was my point? Sorry, that was somewhat of a ramble. I think about like goalies having bad knees, and like if you ever see goalie stances without pads, you'll realize how abnormal it looks. If that makes sense, like the butterfly position, as effective as it is, it's very, very, very tiring on the knees. So if Demko is able to adjust his game to not rely on too many, too many sprawls, and not relying on the last minute extensions for saves, I think he'll be good. Anyways, so going into the second, that one penalty where actually let me pull up which Blues player drew the penalty, if anyone in chat actually knows. But the penalty where the Blues player was basically leaning on not really leaning on Besser, but he was trying to stop and battle for the puck on the boards, and Besser, all he was really doing was maintaining balance and making sure he wasn't he essentially wasn't trying to hold the Blues player, or he wasn't trying to chip the player. But that Blues player fell down, and the refs called it as a Besser chip. Which, you know what? Hold on. Is it box score? If you guys aren't in the Game Over Discord, me, Zach, and Kaja were all like molding over that penalty. It was such a bad penalty, such a bad call. The ref was right there too, like basically like 10 feet away from the call, and he still called it as a penalty. Which, look, I'm not a trained ref. I have never refed once ever in my life, but from the replay, from watching that live, that was not a penalty. And unfortunately, because of how bad that penalty was, we lost momentum right away, and Jordan Kyrou scores on the power play. It was a non-call. That was a non-call. Which one was the non-call, Kaja? Was it like the hockey is fast game? But that was so stupid. Yes. Yeah, like, sure, like I can forgive refs for missing a penalty here or there. If it's something that happens in the corner of your eye and there's like a cheap shot that happens, I could look past that as a fan. But that penalty essentially completely turned the momentum very, very. It turned it upside down to the point where the only way that the Canucks would win was with emotion. Because now the Canucks, not really the Canucks, but now like there's a third team in play where it's the Canucks versus the Blues, also versus the ref, to see who could come up on top. It was basically a double WWE triple threat, where the Canucks they didn't need to take the pin in order to lose, and that's what happened. But anyways, 3-1 going into the third. I will say, in terms of that one power play where Kyrie scored, one complaint that I've had the last few games at least was that the Canucks on the PK, even though early on in the season they've been playing pretty well. They were one of the top penalty killing teams in the league. But one thing they started to struggle with as of recent was passes into the slot or cross ice passes, where opposing teams are able to hit those passes pretty well. And I feel like that's like PK 101, where you protect the middle of the ice as much as you can. And granted, the Canucks scoring on our empty net goal and a lot of our power play goals is due to cross ice passing, so we've been taking advantage of other teams slacking on this too. But excuse me, I feel like if a team like the Canucks, who's supposed to be contending for a cup, if we're not able to do basic stuff like protect the middle of the ice during a penalty kill, I don't think we deserve to win. Like, if we by any chance won this game in overtime, I personally would have thought that this was a lucky game, in that we did not do Demko's first game back justice because of how bad a lot of our plays were. And granted, like I said, if it wasn't for misplays from the Blues end, or if it wasn't for Demko making a lot of clutch saves, this game would have been a blowout. But thankfully, we have our Vizina runner-up in net, and that's that. What's it called? Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So actually, near the end of the second, we gets a power play, and essentially the same thing happens, where if anything the Blues Loki looked worse on the penalty kill. They hosted a yard sale with Hofer and another Blues player, what's it called, losing their sticks right in front of the net, and it got to the point where there were only 3 defenders from the Blues with sticks, and PD scores on a power play after a redirect from a Blues penalty killer. And I feel like if this was the beginning of the season, like first 20 games or so, people would have yelled at PD for not shooting that. But I think with the confidence that he's had over the last few games, like I'd say last 10 games, where he knows how to wait for his shot and wait for the right time. I feel like there's a difference now with back then. If PD didn't shoot, it was because he wasn't confident that he was able to make anything. But now, when PD at least tries to make a play, because even though it was PD's goal, it was meant to be a pass towards Garland. I think his brain's just working so much faster now that he is able to make a smart play instead of making the emotional play. And let's see. Yeah, like, even though I was bagging on the Canucks PK, in that sense, the Blues PK was kind of worse. I think if you were to ask, was the Canucks power play good or was the Blues power penalty kill bad, in that specific penalty kill, I think the Blues penalty kill was a lot worse, considering the fact that it was somewhat lucky that we scored, but at the end of the day, it was 3-2 Blues going into the third. In the third period, Demko looked like Demko. Demko looked like Vizina, runner up Demko very early on in the third. While the first 2 periods, he was, what's it called? He was more so playing to his size. Unfortunately, because of the Canucks defense, the Blues were able to get shots off a lot more shots off on nets, but Demko was able to extend his pads very well, and it didn't look as acrobatic as Demko from last year, but he was what's it called? He was still able to make those saves. And Mr. Wilkins says Demko looked all right. Demko looking all right to me is fine. I'm fine if Demko looks all right because this is his first game since I believe May, like April or May, like late April, early May. He has not played a full game of hockey in, I'll say, roughly 6-7 months. And to not go through training camp, to not play preseason, and to not play like the first 20 or so games, to be put in to essentially start your first game in that long, I think if that is the standard, and if you think about all of that, I think he looked great. To Demko's standards, I think he played all right. A lot of the goals he let pass weren't his fault at the end of the day. Even the what's it called? Even the overtime goal, which I'll get to very shortly, I don't think it's Demko's fault. I I hate our team, Quinn and Bums, worse than Curry and Bums. I think at least right now, if we were to compare it to the Warriors, it's kind of like if you had Klay Thompson, where it's like it's Quinn and Garland and maybe PD and Bums. But the Bums are just our defensive core. I think the depth is somewhat alright, but yeah, we just our defensive core is a bunch of bums. Also, I think a somewhat decent comparison is like just because I know what's it called, the Cian in chat is a Warriors fan. It's kind of like how if you look at Steve Kerr as a coach, is Steve Kerr a good coach or is Steph Curry and team a good team? And I think Curry is a better player than Kerr is a coach. Same thing with the Canucks right now. I think with Tocchet hockey worked very well last year because people didn't really know how to play against a defensive minded Canucks team after like coming from the free flowing Boudreaux team to facing a defensive minded Tocchet team where you're essentially made to take advantage of every single shot that you have. Obviously, if teams aren't used to it, then you can't really scout for it. But right now, as what Kaja said early on in the comment section, I'm not like I don't enjoy watching hockey right now. Oh, sorry, that's a stretch. I don't enjoy watching the Canucks right now. Obviously, like any fan will say that I don't enjoy watching my team when they're losing. I think as Canucks fans, going through the majority of like 2016 up until last year, if we I guess like remove the bubble playoffs from that, it was not fun. It was not fun to watch the Canucks at the end of the day because of the fact that the expectation was that we are a somewhat good team and we ended up losing. But hockey, especially when we're losing, it's so rough because how can we be a gritty team if we can't win puck battles? And a lot of the Canucks losing, especially in the third period, was because of the fact that we couldn't win puck battles at all. Anyways, going back into the recap, just I bring that up because the first 10 minutes of the third, where we are supposed to be a team that, I guess, in terms of how the season has been for us, we're supposed to start playing hockey in the third. Like, Canucks this year, Canucks in the playoffs last year, we're supposed to ignore the first period, ignore the second half, ignore the first half of the second period, and then start playing hockey near end of the second period to the third. It We kind of saw that with PD's goal in the power play in the second, but no shots on goal in the first 10 minutes of the third. It was sure it was sloppy from both ends. Like, you can argue that the Canucks were playing with a bit more emotion, and they were granted they were heated coming into the third, but the comparison that I wanted to bring up, to not bring up any spoilers to anyone that's watched it, but if you guys have seen the show Ted Lasso, there's an episode where the Richmond FC and the coaches, they essentially show the team something to rile them up in order for them to, come back from a losing situation. But instead of playing smart and instead of like pushing themselves to win, they instead play even sloppier. They play even sloppier and get a bunch of penalties and lose. Canucks, granted, they didn't play dirty going into the third, but they played really sloppy. With a lot, like, one thing that I like to mention the play that happened. There was that 2-on-0 with Heinen and Max, Danton Heinen and Max Sasson, and sure, nerves happen to anyone, especially in a losing situation where pressures are high. But Danton Heinen, who is known to be a decent playmaker, instead of moving the puck to his forehand and giving a good pass to Max Sasson, who is, granted, alone in front of the net, it's literally just him and Hofer. He backhands it to him weak, right to his stick, instead of a place where Sasson could actually make a play and shoot. Heinen whips it, and that essentially was the vibes essentially of that game, in my opinion. The Canucks were just out of it. The confidence, it's kind of like, what's it called? The confidence of the entire Canucks team, in a way, is like, how do I say this? A lot of the confidence of that Canucks team shifted all towards PD, but then the rest of the team is rough. Max Sasson has played like 6 NHL games. True, very true. And like at the end of the day, like a more experienced player might have been able to score from there. But at the same time, I'm not blaming Sasson at all in terms of him not scoring. I'm more so blaming the pass that Heinen was giving him in that situation, where like it was a half-ass pass. It was a half-ass pass to Sasson, who in that situation would not have been able to make a good play. If that makes sense. But yeah, a lot of nothing happens in the third though. Garland drew a penalty, but the Canucks don't score in the power play. But in terms of the Canucks only playing the game of hockey in the last, like, in the, I guess, like, end of the game itself, we started passing directly to players. Which Nassian says that every pass off the boards, I swear, which was true, at least in my opinion as a viewer, except for when we pulled the goalie. And if the Canucks could play like we pulled the goalie, or if the Canucks would play like we were down a goal, the entire game, that's fun hockey to watch. When our goalie was pulled, the Canucks were playing really well. They were playing really smart. You can see what's it called. The whole team was playing in sync. A lot of our passing was clean, and the best scores after beautiful passing from Besser to Pedersen, who once again does a cross ice pass with nothing marked, and Pedersen to DeBrusque, who is right there in front of the net to tie the game. We got a point, but we did not deserve that point, honestly. If Kaja cared more about teaching this team basic hockey skills rather than shining his head before games, we probably wouldn't be this awful at home. Fair. You could honestly, there's a lot that you could say about why we're losing at home. I choose to think that, and there was a post on Reddit that actually kind of justified it. I think we need to play more music that caters to the players. Sorry, this is a side tangent that could easily be like a its own period, but after I saw it on Reddit, I felt justified in the sense that sure, the DJ at Rogers Arena, DJ Tom Fleming, he will play music that hypes up the crowd, and like he'll play pop, he'll play like Hot to Go, he'll play Apata from Rose, which I love the song, I love K-pop. He'll play Fiend, and you know what, that will hype up the crowd. But if you're a hockey player, unless you're Hoglander who like knows the entire unless you're Hoglander who knows all the lyrics to the 10-minute version of All Too Well, I feel like you're not gonna get hyped up. That I could easily go on a tangent on this, but I think that's a third period discussion. I'll quickly go recap the overtime. Overtime was literally just the Blues had possession and the Canucks can get that possession back. Besser touched the puck for a second and immediately turned it over because he hesitated on what he needed to do. Holloway scores. Blues win. Susie could have easily been a lot more aggressive. He was more so trying to block the passing lane. And like, if you're going to defend the passing lanes at any point in the game, why would he do it then? When Holloway has an easy chance to just snipe it from where he is, and when the other what's it called? And if the other, how do I say this? If the other Canucks defender in that situation, he was already there. Susie did not need to block off the passing lane. I feel like he could have been a little bit more aggressive. He could have let the puck possibly cross to the other side of the cross-ice pass. It's Demko. He might have actually been able to save it, other than unlike I guess Seelovs and maybe Lankinen. But yeah, we lose 4-3 in overtime. Like Nasian says, we're just playing a bunch of bums, unfortunately. Disagree. If I have to listen to Morgan Wallen in that building, I will combust. I'm not really saying like we should just play country, because I know majority of the Canucks listen to country. I feel like that would, knowing the Canucks fan base, it would not go well. But I think we need more hype songs. I think we need like the classic AC/DC Metallica to play to hype up the team. I think instead of playing Fiend and Travis Scott, play DMX just to hype them up. Susie like me for real, struggling with object permanence. But the thing is, Kaja, the difference between you and Susie is that Susie is a professional hockey player for the Canucks. And if you are a what's it called? It's okay to struggle with object permanence. We're all human. It's just Susie plays for the Vancouver Canucks, and I can't have you struggling to choose whether or not you should block the passing lane or be aggressive on the puck. But yeah, that's the game recap. I want to actually talk a little bit more about Demko as a whole and what that means for the Canucks. I could be a professional hockey player if I wanted to. You know what? I when the PWHL game comes here, if they ever have an open tryout, you know what? You could do it, 100%. I believe. It's easy. Just shoot the puck. If you don't shoot the puck, then you won't be good. But if you shoot the puck, you'll at least have stats. And you will at least be able to pad stats that will get you paid. And speaking about getting paid, talking about our next sponsor, we want to talk about the overall Game Over Network. And if you guys don't know, Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you are interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this podcast, you will find a link to our Patreon page. And we are also working on a page through LaRouche, which is a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec for LaRouche. We are aiming to raise 15K, and if we hit that goal, we will gain access for government grants that will not only allow us to employ more people, but it will also allow us to host giveaways. And if you have any ideas for what you would like to see as giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, or on our Discord server, which is in the description below. If you were to ask me on what a good a good giveaway would be, I'm a hoe for jerseys. If like Game Over Montreal, Game Over Ottawa, Game Over Calgary, if they do giveaways on jerseys, you best believe I am going to spam my way in order to win one. So please, if you enjoy the show, please like and comments and support. We value everyone that watches. We love all of our viewers. And on behalf of the Game Over Network, I just want to say thank you for coming by. I'm going to go to the tryout to go look confused. Hey, you know what? If you can either become a hockey player or you can become a WEG. It's a win-win. Those are the only two options that might come out of it, and I see no loss. Cool. Second period. I wanted to quickly talk about just the Demko situation overall. I think it's very certain that based off of his play as of recent, Seelovs will be the player to essentially stay in Abbey. I think he needs a lot more time. He's still young. Seelovs has a birthday that starts with 2000, which I guess like in human terms, that's still pretty young. You're still growing. You still have a lot to learn. I think as Canucks fans in general, we like to hate and like to bag on players, and with Demko coming back, that just means Seelovs gets to play more games than Abbey, which I don't think he should be a backup at this time, just so he can get reps in down in Abbey. But the question remains on Demko and Lankinen. Seelovs is like a taller in goalie years. He's a fetus and he does not yet have a frontal lobe. Exactly. Like, the goalies don't really start playing, don't really start becoming starters until at least 25. It's a proven fact that as soon as your frontal lobe develops, you immediately become a better goalie. And what better place to do that than in Abbotsford? You know, just get 5 guys every day develop that brain even more, develop your skills down there. And look, we're not gonna be able to sign Lankinen because he's been playing like 10 times better than his current contract. 10 times might be a stretch, but he's playing a lot better than his current contract. So having him develop down an Abbey, and then next season, once he is, what's it called? Once he at least becomes warm-ish, if that makes sense, then we can call him back up. But going back to, actually, that man is a child. He's older than you. I was gonna say something, but I will say that afterwards. Unless you're joining Jordan Binnington, then you're only good as a rookie. Also, if you're Marc-Andre Fleury, who is a literal butterfly that can stop anything in nets, then you could play good as a rookie. But nowadays, with the way that the game develops and the way that goalies have shifted from becoming hybrid goalies where you play a mix of stand-up and butterfly to just being pure butterfly goalies, there's a lot more that you have to develop as a human. That's my thoughts, at least. But yes, anyways, Demko and Lankinen. Who is going to start and who is going to back up? Nasian says that he thinks Demko will play every 3 games until mid-Jan. So you think it'll be like Lankinen, Demko, Lankinen, Demko? Because if that's what you're saying, I do agree. I don't... what's it called? I think the Canucks should do a 1A, 1B thing where there's no, I guess, true starter. And just essentially have them rotate in and out games just so one, Demko is healthy in the playoffs. Because even if Demko isn't the same Demko than what he was last year, at least having 2 healthy starting caliber goalies going into the playoffs would be good. I do have a question for chat though, just because I have my own opinion on this, but I want to reach out to you guys to see what you guys thought. Do you guys think Demko will decline in terms of, I guess, his prime? Or do you think he'll stay in his prime, sorry, English is hard. Do you think he will continue to become the Vezina runner-up goalie caliber goalie that he is? Because my opinion is that, and sure, this is just 1 game, but obviously, like, he's not fully recovered from his knee injuries. And with knee injuries, they're never really going to go away unless you just get a new leg. Or, like, a miracle happens and you get antibodies that make you unstoppable, which I feel like would be illegal in the NHL. But I don't think, at least me personally, I don't think Demko is going to look like 2023 Demko again this season. As much as it pains me to say, and I really wish he's able to prove me wrong, I don't know if we're able to see him be the best goalie that he is. I think if this is 85% Demko, he's still a pretty damn good goalie. I agree. I don't think he'll be a Vezina caliber goalie, but I think he'll be a very solid. I think how do I say this? In my opinion, his ceiling is all-star goalie, like Jacob Markstrom. But I don't think his ceiling goes past that. I can't see him becoming. I can't really see him become a Vezina caliber goalie again, based off of the fact that he's just playing with an ongoing injury. and it's always that injury will forever change the way that he plays and forever change the way that he recovers. And I'm so thankful that we have Kevin Lankinen as a backup and potential starter as well. If we're able to make it to where our tandem going into the playoffs, if we make the playoffs, if our tandem is Demko Lankinen, I'm perfectly okay with that. It is also just one game. Fair. I'm not. I'm not really more so talking about the one game. I think Demko was great considering everything. Actually, you know what? I think Demko was great. Period. A lot of the goals that he let through weren't his fault. I don't think any of the goals that he let through was his fault. You could argue that what's it called? The first goal by Baldock, he might have been able to get a stick in time, but it was also he was also alone in the slot, so it was a good shot by him. But I think today was a great game. Honestly, like we wouldn't have gone to overtime if it wasn't for Demko. But yeah. I think All Star ceiling is fine. I think All Star ceiling is great. We have, like, if we compare it to last year, we have Quinn Hughes, Besser, JT Miller, PD, and Elias Lindholm, plus Demko, who all made it to the All Stars. If we have Quinn Hughes, I doubt all of them make it again, but it's like to think that as a team we still have all of these players that are all-star caliber players with the depth. If they play to their ceiling, or at least if they play to their expectations, this is a playoff team. But if the, like I said once again, if the team is gonna play like bums, and if the team are gonna be bums, and we just rely on Demko and Lankinen to just keep out shots, I think it's a first round exit. But yeah, that I guess is that essentially are my thoughts about the Demko situation. If you guys have anything else that you want to share about that, please let me know in the chat. But that being said, I will quickly move on to the third stream period, which is also sponsored by Game Over, but I want to quickly talk about the Game Over merch with this QR code that will now move to the middle. And you know what, guys? What better way to support something that you love than by rocking its clothing? Game Over apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. So whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, want to make a statement with our established design, which I believe is still currently on sale, or if you guys just wanted another coffee mug to get you through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream now and take a look at our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. Actually, Kaja just says Hughes, Pelison, DeBrusque, All Stars. Fair. I think name wise, not so much performance wise, but I think name wise, I feel like JT Miller would still make it. Even with the extended leave that he's had, even with the stats, I feel like at the end of the day, he's still the 1C. I feel like he would still make it, but it's also still early, too early to tell. So okay, third stream period. I am going to steal this from Conrad over in Game Over Calgary, where he discussed a very interesting question. Was the team naughty or nice this year? And I'm going to ask this as well, just because this is, at least for this year, don't worry, I'll still be here once the new year comes. But as of this year, this is going to be my last show. I'm going back back home to the Philippines to celebrate Christmas there this weekend. I won't say too much more to prevent me from doxing myself. But let's see, where was it? Yeah, so the question he asked was the team naughty or nice this year? And I am going to ask that question more of an overall thing, where instead of just the beginning of the 2024 season, I want to talk about the beginning of 2023 all up until now. And obviously the Canucks have exceeded expectations at the latter half of last season. We were one of the top teams not only in the West but in the league. Very very close to winning the conference championships last year. And even though what's it called? Even though the Canucks have started to slump, I think overall the expectations are that the Canucks are finally a good hockey team. So I think the Canucks have been pretty nice. I'm just spitballing this. I have no notes as well. I just want to have this as an open discussion with you guys as chat. But I think in terms of positives from this year, I think the Canucks are nice. The team has been good. Canucks nice, touch it naughty. Actually, you know what? Let's do this as okay. Text. Aha, okay. Can we, if I move it here? So nice. Canucks. Let's make it smaller too. Haha. Okay, so nice Canucks. Naughty. Talk shit. Okay. Overall, nice. I think Canucks. I think overall, our depth has been 2024. Let's see. Late 2024, aka like the depth now, but naughty early 2024. So I think one thing that we like to forget as Canucks fans was how bad our depth was, and our forward depth was early on in the season, because if we were playing Lafferty and Mikheyev on PD's wing early on in the season, I think that's a naughty. But nice as in now. Let's see. Nice. Sherwood. I agree. Yes. Kiefer Sherwood, I 100% agree in terms of him being in the nice column. He has single-handedly become this team's new lovable rat, which every team needs one. Last year we had Dakota Joshua and Connor Garland, and to an extent JT Miller. But I'm just glad that this guy's on my team. I like that last hit where he lost his glove and got a penalty late into with like a minute to spare in the third this game. I saw that hit and I was like, if I was a Blues fan, I would be pissed. I would be pissed if I saw an opposing player do that to me. But seeing that as a Canucks fan, I couldn't help but laugh. It's like, we were able to rile up the entire Blues bench. They were all standing, yelling at the refs to do something, which they did, and they gave both Sherwood and the player that he hit a minor. So Sherwood is a yes. Jakey, I would also put as nice. Let's see, DeBrusk. DeBrusk I agree with to an extent. I might find fire, not find fire. I might get into. This is my controversial take with DeBrusk, because he is a great player. His what's he called? His chemistry with PD right now is unmatched, but I think his ceiling is 39 goal scorer Kuzmenko. And sure, him and Kuzmenko, two different players. Kuzmenko, I like DeBrusk a lot more on the puck and off the puck, but Kuzmenko, I believe, has somewhat of a better shot. But right now, they're both filling in the same role on the Canucks, which is be a rat in front of the net and find shots close. So I like DeBrusk right now. I'll put him in nice, but I will say once the streak starts to go away, I still think he's a great player. I just hope he's able to continue this goal streak of his. Even though he didn't score I believe he didn't score in the Lightning game, but he was still able to catch up today. And if that is his ceiling, I love that. Okay, naughty. I'm gonna put Mikhaev. Just because, like, oops. I feel like we needed something else in the naughty section. Rogers Arena apparently. Okay, I'm gonna put something that you guys might not agree with. Nice. Canucks goal horn or goal song. Some people might hate it. I love it. I love the Canucks goal song. It hits so much better if you're at the stadium and hearing the bridge of the not the bridge, but like the post chorus of that song is huge. I think momentum wise, it's so annoying to constantly hear that song if you're the opposing team. I think of like when the Canucks came back 4-1 in the playoffs last year, game 1 versus Edmonton. I think it was the perfect song for Garland's 5th goal, where it was electric in the arena. It's a cheesy song, but it works. It works so well. The goal song is so cheesy. Give me Burn It to the Ground. Burn It to the Ground is a great WWE song, but I didn't like it as a Canucks song. It should make it Crab Rave, like TFT, right? Are you talking about TFT when you say Crab Rave? Okay, let's see. We need more naughty. Ilya Mikheyev. Carson Soucy as a top 4D. Carson Soucy as a top 4D does not replace Ian Cole and what he did for us as a rock that you could rely on. Soucy is a great spark plug. Like last year, him playing, like, it was very noticeable when he wasn't there. Actually, I'm just gonna see how. Can I? Okay, color. Black, maybe? Nope. Black is not the answer. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. I'll keep it white. Oh, actually, background. Background? Okay, never mind. That doesn't do anything. Uh, anyways, yes, Carson Susi. Idea Ian Cole as a deadline acquisition. I'd rather. I think Ian Cole last year was good, but I'd rather not have another 36-year-old defenseman. Um, Naughty Zadorov contract negotiations. I I disagree. I'm putting that in nice, where it's letting Zadorov and Lindholm walk. I think we dodged a bullet because if we had Zadorov, we would not have. For one, we would have an extra. Was it like five? Was it 5 mil? 5.5 mil? We would not. We would essentially have to trade Zadorov in order to get cap space, in order to fix our right-handed defenseman situation. I meant Naughty because he was a little bitch. Hey, you know what? I respect his game. He's a chirper and he chirps well. I There's a difference with him talking shit about contract negotiations and let's say like Horvat talking shit about the Canucks fan base. If that makes sense. Where it's like Horvat wasn't known to talk shit like that. Zadorov is, and he shat on playing on Alberta. Um, After he left Alberta, so it was only my time before he shat on the Canucks. So I'm okay with that. Um, okay. I need more. I need one more naughty before I'm happy with this list. Nice. Naughty Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko, no need to explain. He was a healthy scratch for Calgary. Nice Luke Shen in the handshake line. I think Luke Shen in the nice column is for Kaja's list. I think he could also put Kristanov in there as well. I want one more naughty. Canucks first period. Because when has the Canucks ever played a good first period? That's all. Cool. I'll leave this up here for you guys. But thank you for helping me fill this up. We'll quickly head over to the overtime section of the stream itself. And I will quickly talk about the overtime sponsor, which is the upcoming Game On segment. Game Over has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch the Canucks, you gotta get your game on too. Game On Vancouver will be a short form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Vancouver Canucks. It will be hosted by myself and Zach Clarke. Most likely when I come back from my vacation. But once that is up, Game Over Vancouver will be the best place to get all of your Canucks news in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday, on the Game Over Vancouver YouTube channel. And in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Vancouver. With overtime, I always just keep it free. Keep it as open as possible with whatever you guys want to talk about. Whether it's if you guys need advice on what to get for like a Vancouver fan for Christmas, I can give you that. Or anything that you guys want to talk about. Chat is open for you guys. There was actually one thing I want to quickly mention, but I need to... Let's see. Have you guys seen the new Van Base clothes? Or like the Van Base like clothing line that they have? Specifically the OVO stuff. Because I hate myself for saying this, but I like it. I like everything about it except for the fact that it's $200. This game made my headache worse. It's okay. Honestly, what helps me with my headaches is just I rewatch fun games. Like I rewatch the 4-1 Edmonton game. I rewatch the Besser hat trick game with Nashville. That typically gets my headaches away. Also, if you squeeze your head like this, like if it's a migraine in the front, and if you squeeze your head like this, and then you do the same like this for like 10 seconds each, kind of helps. OVO. Sure, the OVO logo is kind of meh on it, but I still like it. I wish I had more money so I could actually buy stuff from Vanbase. Like, there's a Canucks tote bag that was released, like the Vancouver Canucks X line change tote bag, which I hate how I also like that, but it's also nice. But at the end of the day, the Canucks are selling merch that is more expensive than the merch from the Eras Tour. Like the Eras Tour hoodies were like 110, and the Canucks are selling hoodies for 120, and I think that's way too much. So that so if anything, that is my advice to you guys if you guys are looking for merch to give away to a Canucks fan. But anyways, if there isn't any other questions from chat, we might thank you. I'm putting that naughty. I'm gonna put for the next question mark. Okay, I'll talk about this really quickly, and then I'll talk about my opinion about Fanatics coming in as a jersey sponsor for the Canucks, and then that will be the end of the stream. The Fanatics jerseys are the exact same as the Adidas ones from last year. The one thing that I'm worried about is so if you guys don't know, the Fanatics jerseys, so not really the breakaway, but I believe it's the Premier. No, it's Fanatics Authentic Pro, and then the Premier jersey. Those are the exact same as the Adidas ones from last year. Not the Juan Soto. That's the life of a non-salary cap league. I think Naughty would just be like Man City or the MLB in general. But anyways, the only difference between the Fanatics on ice jerseys now and the Adidas ones from last year are the dimples. So I'll show you guys this. This is an on ice jersey. I got this from Marketplace for a really good deal, but the only difference is that there's no dimples. Everything else is the same. I've seen the Fanatics on ice jerseys in person, and I would honestly argue that they're better than the Adidas ones. Sure, people look at the prices of the Authentic Pro and they're like, Fanatics is bad, and Fanatics is too expensive. But the Adidas ones retailed for $750. Like this, my Quinn Hughes jersey. Retail, I didn't buy it for this much, but retail they were $750. But the Fanatics ones resell for $4.99. So I think actually, you know what? Before I end the stream tonight, my hot take is that surprisingly Fanatics. And that is all. If you guys enjoyed the stream tonight, please do not forget to subscribe. My name is Sianquita. This is Game Over Vancouver. Have a good night, guys.